internet, and so we're just going to pick up where we left off, and we'll just call it part one and part two, and you can stitch them together yourself at home. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry, we're in a stormy season here, and I lose my internet from time to time. Not much I can do about that other than jump onto my backup internet and hope that that one is working. So hopefully, hi Ray, thank you for coming back. So I'm going to pick up with this second question, which was how to work with a PO as a UX designer in an agile team. And so basically, there's we've had some other we had a show about how to work with project managers. So I think if you look up Delta CX project manager or product management out on YouTube, you'll probably find our old show. But let me give you a short answer here, even though we've done a show on this. Ultimately, a product owner is hopefully an excellent partner for us. The product owner sometimes shepherds the business goals a little bit more than the customer goals, but we can balance that out because we're usually looking at the customer goals a little bit more than the business goals, though both of us should care about both. So it's kind of two different voices joining in, and then we get that third voice from engineering, and we have a really good triangle, a really good triumvirate there of the three domains coming together to collaborate, prioritize, work together, things like that. So how can you work with so again, this question is really broad, and I'm not sure exactly what aspect of working with a product owner you would mean, because there's all the stuff that should happen at the beginning of a project with planning and doing early research so that we can feed what the product will even be or do. There's during that research, there's after the research, there's all of the design work and the iterations on the design work. I feel like this is just too broad a question for me to answer in this short format that we do here, and we have the previous show on it. Let me see if I can find the number on the previous show, since that will help you find it. Let's see, product. If you go into the live stream podcast playlist, or if you just go to YouTube and search, let's see. I'm not seeing it. What did we call it? Gosh, okay, I'm going to have to keep looking for this. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm just having one of those days. Let's move to the next question, and I will do my best to circle back into good vibes. So this question came in anonymously some days ago, and it says, how to hand off a design to developers. So first of all, in many implementations of Agile, handoff is a dirty word. People feel like UX handing off to developers means, here, I designed something, I'm off to the next thing, goodbye and good luck, and then silos and disconnection. So I try to think of it more as delivery with a continuous collaboration rather than handoff. For some people, that's just semantics, but I've had people semi-freak out when I've said handoff because they imagined that that meant I was not going to help them, I was not going to be responsive, I was not going to collaborate with them if they had questions after the UX work was finalized. So just a little bit of word warnings there. So how do you hand off a design to developers? Deliver it? I'm not, again, this is another question where I'm not too sure what you're shooting for. Now, typically, I'm collaborating with engineering as I go. When I am done with the design or I'm handing it off, that is not the first time engineering is seeing it. Make sure that you are collaborating with engineering. I like to check in with them at least weekly and say, these are the directions that we are going in so far, or oops, we just did some testing, we need to shift our direction. And that way they can start to be prepared for the engineering architecture, technical architecture, whether that's going to be database architecture, whether that's going to be APIs that need to be invented, API calls that need to be created, microservices, whatever it might be. Engineering should start to be ready for what's coming down that line. Now, UX should be 2 or more sprints ahead of engineering, typically 4 or more sprints ahead. So we are giving them an early preview of what's coming weeks from now for them. But it's still good to collaborate with them. And typically my style of collaboration is to just check, is this technically feasible? Are there any blockers to this? Is there something they're going to have to create that they're not ready to create, or they don't have the time or the people power? So you don't want to just hand off a design to developers that they've never seen before and cha-cha-cha out of there and go silo yourself. You want to make sure that you're available to them for any questions or ambiguities. And I'm also suggesting now, after getting some good advice from some guys in the Navy that I've been working with lately, they are suggesting a UX review column on your Kanban or Jira board. And I think that's a cool idea. So I've started suggesting it. Credit to the guys at NIWC at the Navy. And basically the idea is when QA is reviewing the developer builds and checking for bugs, someone from UX is checking the developer builds for good UX, helping with accessibility, helping to check if the developers followed the designs or if they made something up or changed something. So you are shepherding the customer value and the quality. And thanks, Husna. The engineers are gonna shepherd the quality of the code and the reliability of the code and the performance of the code, and you're going to shepherd the customer value and the customer experience side of it. So that's another way that we can work together. I do see that someone has sent in a new question anonymously. I'm going to put you on the bottom of the list, but it is a long list. So I'm going to stick around until we get everybody's question answered today, because I'm not going to be here next week and I want to make sure I'm helping as much as I can before I go. Okay, let's go for the next anonymous question that has come in. I'll get this up on the screen. Here we go. All right, here it is. And it says, sometimes I feel so tired of fighting for research and going with my assumptions, not for critical but smaller decisions. Is it wrong? So I'm not too sure what is it wrong is in reference to. Is it wrong for you to be fighting? Is it wrong for you to be tired of fighting? Is it wrong for you to go with your assumptions? So look, technically, none of these are wrong. Some of these are better situations than others. Some of these will lead to more job satisfaction than others. Some of these will drive you to quit. And that is the company's loss. So I would say, are you tired of fighting for research? That's not wrong. That's common. It's very tiring. It's very tiring to show up to a job that hired you for your skill and expertise and find that nobody there understands the value of what you do, and you have to fight for it. I don't know of any other role that does that. Developers don't show up and have to fight for the power to write code or the time to write code. So I'm sure they would like more time. So it's a unique spot UX is in, where we get hired supposedly for our skill and expertise and critical thinking, hopefully, in no particular order. And yet we get there and people are like, make me a pretty screen. And it's like, I do not do that. How did you hire me and not know what I do? Looks like I can't set off any of my effects. This is so sad, because the stream died and came back to life, and sad. So should you keep fighting? Up to you. It's hard. You can watch a lot of the videos I've put out there to see if there's anything in there that can help you. My usual favorites to recommend are in the live stream podcasts playlist. They're episodes 115 and 116. Think of them as a free half-day workshop, because it is 4.5 hours of content. If you're comfortable with English, you can probably watch it at a faster speed, but it's a lot of stuff, and it's hopefully a lot of actionable advice, since around here we are all about, I can't set off my effects, meaningful, actionable, and helpful. I'm gonna have to find some way to set off my effects. This is sad. What happened to my effects, y'all? Because I changed networks. All right, let's see if I can catch it on my other network. Let's see, is this working? Woo 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 effects. Alrighty. So that would be some of my suggestions. Husna says, this is my first time attending office hours. It's wonderful. I'm learning so much. Thank you. Good to see you. And thanks for dropping by YouTube. YouTube is generally more reliable than LinkedIn, and I do recommend that people subscribe here on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, on YouTube. I'm usually live 4 times a week, but I'm about to go on vacation. So in general, lots of good stuff here. Mondays, I teach UX by doing the work and talking through it. So there's lots of fun, different shows on the channel. It's not just all this. Next question. Okay. So to the person who, are they tired of doing it? Only you can decide if you need to move on. But remember, if you're moving on, watch episode 129 about what are some of the questions we should ask during job interviews to make sure that our individual contributor job is a place where we want to work. How are they doing research? Who's doing the research? Do engineering and design wait for research to come back? Things like that. So watch episode 129 if you're changing jobs, and learn about what you should be asking companies to make sure you are not going out of the frying pan into the fire. Alrighty, the next question that came in said, how do I push through a project or effort that just sucks? How do you stay motivated until it's over? The work sucks. I'm not fully happy with how the team is working, and I've already voiced my concerns, so I'm just tired at this point. I don't want to quit. I love my company, but I'm really hating on this project, and I feel burnt out. I still have a few more months until I move to another project. So, gosh, there's a lot of stuff in here. If you don't want to quit, then you're there. You're staying there. If you know you can't move to another project for a few months, then you are there, and you are staying there, and you're stuck in this project. Now, you've voiced your concerns. I hope you've spoken to your manager. I don't know if your manager is supportive of UX or of you, or if they can move you off the project or transition somebody else in, tell the client or whoever you're freshening up people for some fresh perspectives. If you cannot get off this project for a few more months and you don't want to quit, you're going to hold out for whatever's coming next, then my advice is usually you have to start caring a little bit less. If a project is really that out of control, then usually we're getting very upset because of how the project is going because we care so much. And if you are going to just make it through this project and do the best work you can, I just say dial back the emotions a little bit. Try not to care as much. You're going to do the best work you can. The project is going to end up well. You're going to collaborate where you need to. You're going to research or design where you need to. But you just have to detach yourself a little bit for your own safety. That's sometimes how I stay motivated, is I say, okay, look, I'm just going to do the best that I can in the face of a difficult team or a difficult project. And I know something better is coming in a few months, and I'm just going to push through and do the best work I can. And that's all you can do. So if it just sucks, but it's not bad enough that you're leaving, that's probably what you're going to do. Responding to the previous question, Husna says, I wonder if they meant they don't want to use research for smaller decisions and rely on assumptions instead. Is that okay to do? Okay, so if that's what the previous question meant, then I would say no. It is not good to rely on assumptions, especially if you're a researcher. The whole point of research is to dispel our assumptions, is to get rid of guesses. And so we want to make sure that we are not taking the person who is supposed to get us away from guesses and assumptions and hypotheses and have you basing stuff on guesses and assumptions and hypotheses. So let me make a note that we continued answering that question after the next question. Answer to this continued after next question. Because the list of questions go in the YouTube description so we can all see later what the heck we were talking about. And Alpha, I see your question, and I will add it to the end unless you think it's a follow-up to what I'm already talking about, but I think I'll add it to the end if you don't mind. So back on the previous question, I would say You're saying, can I go with my assumptions, not for critical decisions, but smaller decisions? I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I know sometimes we're just in very bad situations and we have to make the best of them. And sometimes that means guessing because our company is not letting us do our best work, which is super sad. So I would go to someone and go, do you want my best work? And if you don't want my best work, why not? And can we please put that in the risk register? You didn't want my best work. You wanted less than my best work. But I would say, wherever possible, you don't want to go with assumptions. When I go with assumptions, I document that. So in my research report, I say, I literally have a bulleted list of what are potential flaws in my research. And the potential flaw could be who some of the recruited people were, a question a stakeholder made me ask that was a crappy question, the fact that I had to make a couple of assumptions on some things because we didn't have that data. So, or the data wasn't reliable or usable or current or whatever it might be. So typically if I have to do one of these things, which is rare, but if I have to, I document it as a possible research flaw. And I remind everybody on the team that since research is trying to set up everything after it for success, we definitely want to minimize the flaws in our research or potential flaws because that's risk. And we don't want that risk. No, we don't. Okay. Thank you, Husna, for helping me circle back to that question and add a little bit more color to it. Okay, let's take a look at the next question that came in. And you ever notice, based on the questions I get, this is what working in UX is like. For people who think that working in UX is all free Silicon Valley lunches and sticky notes on walls, notice from the questions what working in UX is really like. It's unfortunate. Okay, so here is a question. Let me bump up the font a little bit. Hey, Debbie, you often mention how UX and CX is a thankless job. How do you stay sane and keep your mental health balanced and healthy when we're often confronted with disappointment, conflict, and blamed or treated as the ugly stepchild? Unfortunately, so true. So number one, this is why I tend to look for resilience as a quality in a UX worker. Now, right there, that's kind of sad. That says, what the heck is going on in our jobs that I'm specifically looking for people who are resilient? Hi, Dennis. For people who are not going to take things extremely personally, for people who aren't going to shatter on impact when they have a bad day, for people who aren't going to go out and vague book grumpy stuff about our company when they have a disappointing exchange with someone else. So first of all, I am looking for resilience, even though it's sad that I'm looking for resilience. Let's just say that out loud. As for mental health, I think that one of the most important things that we can do is have boundaries. I find that when jobs or projects start getting messy, people lose their boundaries, especially in UX, where we care about people and we care about customers and we care about our coworkers and it's all empathy, hashtag empathy. And the problem is that we're not taking care of ourselves. And we actually did a show about this a long time ago. Let me see if I can find it. We had Seth Finkel on. And he did a bunch of stuff. If you can't find it, we have a whole playlist of all the times Seth was on the show. So chances are it's in there. Let me check that playlist. Go to YouTube, the Delta CX channel, and there is a playlist. And let me find it. Where did it go? It says something like psychology and let's see, psychology, emotional intelligence, dealing with conflict, and personal improvement. That is the name of the playlist, and it's got 12 videos, and you will see that there are things in here that definitely match some of what we're talking about now. We did a show on resilience. We did a show, this is exactly it, episode 103, people-pleasing versus self-advocacy. Perfect. So I would say that one's probably a really good match here to go back and watch. Hi, Ray. I think that we have to have boundaries. Some of those boundaries are going to be the hours you work. Stop working 12, 15 hours a day. Stop working weekends. Start having boundaries. Start saying to people, to your teammates, to your project manager, I've been working all these extra hours, especially if you're not paid for those hours, or especially if you just don't want to work those hours. Hey, I've been working all these extra hours trying to, save this project, but I have to save myself. And I'm just going to have to go back to an 8-hour day or whatever it is, especially if I'm only paid for an 8-hour day. And so we can't assume that I'm going to do 10, 12, 15 hours of work in a day or catch up on the weekends. We need to make sure that we are planning this project for the amount of time it takes for me to do this at a healthy pace. Or we need to double up. Get me a UX junior, get me a UX senior, get me some other partner who can help me with this, because we clearly have more work than one person. So you have to start with boundaries where you're going to have to say no or yes, but can we adjust this? These boundaries might come in other forms. You might need to start saying no to certain meetings. How many hours of garbage meetings are we in every day? Meetings that could be emails, meetings that could be dashboards. Oh my gosh, hour meetings, it could be 10 minutes. It's just deadly out there. Start saying no to these. I ask for agendas on every meeting, and I ask that every meeting end early. Book a 25-minute half hour, book a 50-minute hour. Give people a little bit of a breather between meetings. But if you're not totally needed on that meeting, maybe you don't go. If there is not a great reason for you to be there, and if they will send out an email later on whatever was discussed or decided, and you're not there, you don't need to be part of that decision, skip it. So ultimately, if the question here centers around mental health, because I can't always stop a company from treating us badly and misunderstanding our jobs and making our work so incredibly thankless, where we need resilience, I would say, put your mental health first. A job is a job. You can leave the job. You can go to another job. You can take a vacation from the job, but you still have you. You still have you, and you've got to put yourself first. Maybe speak to your manager about what you're going through. That person is supposed to care and is supposed to do something, so that might be another thing as well. Alrighty. Thank you for that question. Beautiful question, and I'm hoping that our entire playlist will help you out. We've got 12 videos on this. They each run about an hour. As everybody knows, most of the videos on this channel are an hour. That can feel a little bit long, but I like to think of them as completely free webinars and conference sessions, available to you 24 hours a day on the YouTube channel. Alrighty. This one says, hi, so as an individual contributor, we don't get a lot of say in which projects we get pulled into. Oh, Dennis has a question. Is it possible to hire you for general or informal consultation? Yes. Head over to deltacx.com and see, fill out the contact form there or book some time. I'm not too sure yet what you need, Dennis. I don't know if you're looking for coaching or if there's something your company needs me to work on, like a CX transformation or improving the UX department or processes. I can't tell from your question, but maybe book some time and we can talk about it. Thank you. So back to this. Oh, we don't have a lot of say in which projects we get pulled into. I think I got a sucker one. It got sold as gold, and it's just gold-plated shit. Any suggestion and advice on how to talk to your manager about moving towards other efforts or focusing on stuff that's more in line with the type of work you want to do? So even though these probably came from different people, this does seem like a cousin of our earlier question, where the person didn't like the project they were on, but didn't want to quit, but was going to wait for the next one. So how to talk to your manager about this? I would probably book a meeting with my manager, maybe a half hour, and say, hey, are you familiar with Project ABC? Are you aware of what's going on, in that kind of more day-to-day Project ABC world? Your manager might go, yeah, I know that one's a mess. Or they might go, no, I haven't really been following it. What's going on? Okay, door open. And now, to me, the trick is to stay unemotional. And that's hard. If you are frustrated and you want to swear and whatever, you have to just kind of gather yourself up, because I find the more emotional we are, the less leadership seems to care. So I-10 says, what's up with the questions today? I-10, it's just the real world. I thought you liked the drama. I would say, first of all, see if your manager is aware of what is going on this project. And so if they say, no, I'm not familiar with that, or yeah, that sounded like a really good project, what's going on, or whatever, doors open. Now you can tell them, when I was first told about this project, it really sounded like a good opportunity to do some research and then have that research inform these designs so we could really build the right thing for the customer and go for that customer satisfaction. I'm making all this up. But now that I'm on that project, I'm seeing that engineers just want to rush out code. UX research isn't being given any time, and designers are told to make some pretty wireframes so engineers know what to build. That doesn't match the way this project was described to me. I was hoping it would get better, but it doesn't seem to be getting better. And so I'm coming to you as my manager to ask, what do we do now? Because this project is not good. And I don't know if there's a better person who could be on a project like this than me. Do we have anybody on the team who is a little happier just taking orders than I am? Because it seems like that's all this project wants. Again, I'm making this up. I don't know your story. Seems like that's all this project wants, and that may be all I'm able to do on it, and that's not really a match of what I'm here to do. It's not really playing to my strengths or my skills, and so I want to see if there's a way to maybe be shifted off this project if you don't think you can kind of step in and help change it. And then also in the future, how can we look for projects that are better matches to the strengths and the skills that I bring? Now, that's either going to go really well or really badly. I've had conversations like that and they've mostly gone well, but I've had some great managers and that worked out well. If you have a manager who isn't UX, they don't understand UX, they come from product, engineering, marketing, chances are they're going to act like, wow, what's wrong with the job? Suck it up and do the job. And obviously that's going to be disappointing. And if you don't have your manager's support, that's usually a person who doesn't stay at a job very long. You absolutely have to have that manager's support, especially when you're asking for something reasonable. So that would be my guess. And Husna, I see your question. We will add it to the bottom of the list. Thank you so much. I am adding it to the list. No one can see that. I promise it's happening. Okay. Let's go to our next question. Wow, we have a lot of negative questions today. I mean, it's not that the questions are negative, but people are in some very negative experiences. If this is bothering people to hear, I apologize, but I think these are important to talk about. And I want people to feel like they have a supportive home here to talk about these things. Hey, Denise, I see your question as usual. It's a goodie, and I'm going to put you on the end of the list. Sorry that there is a long list today, Denise, but hopefully you can stick around and I promise to answer before the show ends. So the new question is, does it make sense to leave the company due to not having access to users? There's no user research without users. Our own users are very reluctant to make time for user interviews, and my company's not willing to spend money on user recruitment platforms because they're too much for our budget, as far as I was told, but I haven't seen our budget. So obviously, this is a company that doesn't really care about research. It's really hard to say we care about research and we really want to understand our customers so that we can build what they need and care about their satisfaction, and then not give you access to users, and then not give you access to a budget that would entice users, because maybe users would be happy to do interviews if you gave them $100 American dollars, $150 American dollars. Maybe there's just a number at which people will give you their time. So I would say if they are not going to give you the budget and if they're not going to give you the access, you can leave the company. Everyone has to decide their own deal breaker. We all have our lines, and if a job crosses them, we don't want to stay. And if the job doesn't cross them, we hang around and hope it gets better. So you have your own line. I can't tell you where that line should be, but if you really feel like research is never going to be research because you don't have access to users and everybody's just guessing guessing and assuming, and that's not fulfilling, then I would consider leaving. And again, if you're on the fence about it, you can still start applying and start interviewing, because it can take months to find a UX job. It's not like you're going to start applying and you're going to get a job next week. That happens, but it's rare. So you might as well brush up that resume, CV, or portfolio and start applying just to see what happens. But remember to watch episode 129 about the questions you should be asking during interviews, so that you don't go out of this not so super job into another one just like it or worse. Make sure you are asking the right questions so that you know what's cooking at this new company, and you know if you're walking into a mess, or you're walking into a mess in progress, or you're walking into a better environment. So check that out. Wilson says, yes, access is important and such a huge roadblock. It can be. You can try to do plan B stuff, but I wouldn't want to build a full-time job out of always having to do plan B stuff. It's too important to connect with our target or potential or current users directly, for both for the generative and exploratory research and for the evaluative research. Wilson says, yeah, episode 129 is really good. I recommend it. Me too. So thank you for that question. Let's see. This seems like a cousin of the same question. And remember, because these come in anonymously, I don't know whether these are different people or it's the same person. They're just anonymous. So I don't know. And it might seem like many of these questions are repeats of each other, but it sounds like everyone's going through a lot of stuff right now. Hello, I10's posting Christmas trees, but yet I'm not seeing them over my face. Let's try to reload our effects today. My stream is really sad today. Here we go. We've been missing out on the effects. All right, new question. I feel like I'm getting paid for nothing. I can't do user research and it makes me feel bad. Should I look for a new job or try to change their mind? Try to be the change? Is running away from a difficult situation instead of trying to fix it? Does it mean I'm not dedicated enough? Okay, so I don't know if this is a continuation from the previous person or if this is a new question from somebody else. Yeah, so this sounds like it could be a continuation of the previous question. And if you can't do research and you're a researcher, you might not ever be happy with this job. You might as well moved on. And does it mean you're not dedicated enough to what? To a workplace that isn't a match to you? How dedicated should you be to a workplace that technically doesn't want what you do? I think worker loyalty is important. I think it's important to be dedicated to your job, but you can't be dedicated to your job when your job's not dedicated to you. If they're not going to give you the time, budget, and resources that you need, which includes access to users, if people don't prioritize research, if you're not an important part of the process, what are you doing there? And if they don't want to change, you can't change them, and that's not your fault. If you can't change them, it's not because you didn't do it right, you didn't say the right words, you didn't say design thinking enough, you didn't hold enough workshops, you weren't dedicated enough. It's not you. These workplaces have culture and precedent long before you got there. You didn't break it, and you can't fix it. You can try. But if they're not giving you autonomy and power and authority to change it, then you can't change it. That's the bottom line. I know many of us, if you're watching this channel, you are someone who wants to make change. I know this. That doesn't mean the workplace wants you to make that change. And if they haven't given you that authority, and if your job doesn't say make and change, then you can't do it. If your job says you're supposed to shepherd user centricity across the organization, then you have to ask somebody, where's my authority to make the changes that would make us more user-centric? And I bet they're going to go, So keep applying. Yeah, Wilson says, so true, though he used some swear words. How can you be dedicated to your work when they're not dedicated to you? Yes, unfortunate situations there. I love to be loyal to jobs, but it only can go so far, and it kind of has to be mutual. All right, I've got 4 questions on the list, so we're finally getting down the list. Here is another question. We've got a lot of brackets here. So a lover of math has sent in this question. What is the difference between user needs statements, a user needs thing in order to accomplish goal, and user stories? As a type of user, I want goal so that benefit? Are they essentially interchangeable? If not, when would you use each? Okay, so I usually don't write user. Oh, Dennis wrote something. I can personally vouch for the approach of making an unignorable business case, put stakeholders in a position to say we're not interested in saving money. Yeah, that's why one of the key catchphrases on this channel is business intelligence and risk mitigation. Stop saying UX is about delight or empathy. That is just way too woo-woo for a company that wants money. Money, money, money. So if you are not making the company money or saving the company money, they don't care about your woo-woo empathy and delight. So talk about business intelligence and risk mitigation. This is in episode 116. All right, back to this question. Okay. So typically, I would say user stories are more common. I typically don't write user needs statements. That doesn't mean that they're not meaningful. Anything is meaningful if you make it meaningful. That's the bottom line. If a user needs story is meaningful, actionable, and helpful in your world, at your company, on your team, write them. If they are not meaningful and actionable and helpful, if they do not set up later steps of your process for success, what are you doing? Don't bother with it. Don't bother with anything that doesn't set up yourself, your teammates, or future steps of this process or the assembly line for success. That's part of why I don't like empathy maps. There is nothing I can do after seeing an empathy map. Congratulations, here's what people said and did, and congratulations, you guessed it, how they felt and what they thought. Now what am I supposed to do? Does not help me, does not change what I design. The research, the information from the research will change what I design, but an empathy map doesn't change how I design, so I don't make them. So ultimately, the user story is sometimes written by product people, sometimes written by UX people. I've seen a few written by business analysts. You have to figure out who owns this stuff, or is this a collaboration? But ultimately, you are looking to express that a user, sometimes your personas or a target group, needs a certain thing. And that's where you don't want to be prescriptive. You don't want to say they need a dashboard that has 2 graphs that are bar graphs that compare time estimated to time spent. Whoa, hold on. You just designed the thing. These statements or stories are not supposed to design the thing. They're not supposed to say exactly how this thing works. They're supposed to stick with a super high level concept. Users need information, so it doesn't have to say dashboard, doesn't have to say what the graphs are. They need information so that they can make informed decisions about how workers are spending their work time. We didn't design anything. We didn't paint UX into a corner on what they can design. We're going in the wrong direction when the user stories are overprescribed or the requirements are overprescribed and say, this has, as a user, I want a dashboard with 2 graphs so that I can. Now you've gone in the wrong direction. And of course, the worst story I ever saw, I think, said something like, as a product manager, I want the user to do this. And I was like, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't. The end. Oh, I'm pressing buttons. I'm having a bad day with my effects. So ultimately, write what makes sense for your team and their process. If people want formalized problem statements, write that. If people want formalized user needs statements, write that. If people want, here comes a smiley. If people want, someone's going to write user stories, so you've got that, but you want to be involved in that because sometimes user stories are not user-centered. They're supposed to be user-centered. They're supposed to almost force us into being user-centered, and yet so often I read user stories that are not. Dennis says, keep user stories in the problem space and out of the solution space. Yes, I love it. That's exactly right. Yes, user stories are just supposed to frame they could be reframed problem statements and things like that. Husna says, UX is about creating empathy for the product manager. Yeah, it feels like that sometimes. I feel you there. A little empathy moment for you. So that's what I would say about those things. Again, you can also see episode 116 in the live stream podcasts playlist, where I talk about the downside of typical sprint goals statements. I don't think I cover user stories in that particular episode, but I do talk about how in Agile, sometimes the written sprint goals are a freaking disaster, because they basically say, like, for this sprint, we're going to build this because we believe it has customer value. And I'm like, what? Why are we believing? Why are we hoping something has customer value? We should know from a good UX process that it has customer value before we're making engineering spend time on it. Alpha says, oh no, is it too late to add a question to the list? I will try, Alpha. Please hold. I'll put you at the end. So we will say no more questions after Alpha. We are full for the day. And there are 4 questions left with Alpha at the end. So I will stay a little bit later so I can answer all of these. And let's go to the next one. And here it is. If there is no voice of the customer available, and neither are the stakeholders allowing researching with the actual customer, how would you approach the situation to do the discovery? At that point, it's not discovery. At that point, you're guessing. And like I said earlier today, one of the points of research is to clarify guesses, clarify assumptions, clarify, validate, invalidate, adjust hypotheses. If you are doing research to understand our potential customers, their tasks, their workflows, their mental models, and you can't talk to a customer and you can't talk to a stakeholder, how are you supposed to do discovery research? This probably comes from a company who thinks that everything comes from data. They probably think if you just look at Google Analytics, you're going to understand customers. And that is absolutely not true. As I said earlier, we can get some quantitative information out of that. We can know X% of people hit this page and then Y% of people continue to this page. Uh-oh, looks like we lost a lot of people along the way, but we don't know why. We don't know who's doing that shopping. We don't know what happened. We don't know if they hit a bug on our site or some bad UX. We don't know what happened. So to me, there is no solution to this. This is not a discovery process if you cannot speak to the target potential users or customers. Of course, I would try, if they're not going to give me existing people, then I would want to recruit from outside the company using a panel. And I would preferably want to recruit people who are not our customers. I love to talk to people who are in our target audience but aren't our customers. Someone who's selected somebody else. Whether maybe they saw us, maybe they never saw us, but those people are generally unfamiliar with our system. And that way, if we do show them something from our system, or we do ask them to show us their task and things like that, we're going to get some pretty fresh information, because now we're looking at how people do this, especially if they're not doing it in our system. So to me, discovery and exploratory and generative research is heavy observational research where you can, and heavy interviews with or without the observational research. I don't have a solution for how to do discovery when you cannot do discovery with the people you do discovery with. It's like, hey, Deb, I need to have a cavity filled, but I'm not allowed to go to a dentist. What should I do? I have no answer here. You've literally nothing here. So I'm sorry about that, and I hope it gets better. Wilson says, it's crazy. The majority of the people here are asking similar questions because so many of us are running through the same problem. Exactly. That's why I am here fighting for our profession, and I hope you will too. And there's so many ways to fight for our profession: standing up, speaking out, saying no, having boundaries, writing better plans, estimating your time, talking to your leadership. I think our leadership has been way too weak. UX leaders are way too weak. They thought saying design thinking was going to save everything and evangelize everything, and the opposite has happened. So I'm going to be pushing real hard in 2022 on UX leaders. Anyone who has a manager or higher title is not getting it done. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are not. So we want to make sure that the people who are kind of not getting it done will wake up and realize that saying design thinking didn't solve it. All right. How do I document my research or design process in order to present it neatly in a UX portfolio and refer back to the project easily? I feel like my work is disorganized and I have to scavenge hunt to make a case study from it. Okay, so what I would do is, I don't know if you have an existing portfolio where you already have a project and you could use it as a template. If you do have a really good looking portfolio with a good existing project, then use it as a template and you start fitting in stuff from the new project into the sections that you've created on the page. So first of all, what's the backstory or introduction or goals of the project? Then if you did research, how did you plan the research? What were the goals of the research? What were you looking to learn? Who were you going to recruit? How many people? Where were you going to find them? What were a couple of cool questions you were planning to ask them, or what were you going to observe them doing? Then you've got your execution of the research. So how did you do the research? Were there any cool quotes you want to put in your portfolio? So basically, you are just going through the storytelling of the project. Imagine you're in an interview and I'm sitting here interviewing you and I say, hey, I see you recently worked on a thing. Talk me through that project. That's the storytelling that you need to do. And I would start piecing stuff in. If it's disorganized, that's okay. But now you've got to piece it into ultimately an organized portfolio project. If you don't have good UX on a UX portfolio, you are less likely to get that interview. You are more likely for someone to go, do you even UX, bro? So you want to make sure that you're applying things that you know about content, about information architecture, about interaction design, about visual hierarchy to your own portfolio so that you can take something that might be disorganized behind the scenes and organize it for the people who will see it. Husna says, follow up. How much detail should I include in my portfolio? Okay, so we've talked about portfolios a lot on this channel. We've got, I think it was episode 54, where I talked about some suggestions that I have for portfolios. So you can always look back at episode 54, even though it's kind of old. Yesterday we did episode 138, but it's still mostly relevant. Good old episode 54. And what I suggest to people is, add detail, but put it under accordions. Have things that open and close so that someone like me who wants that detail can see it and can get to it. But someone who doesn't want that detail or might not understand it, like your typical HR person or screener or talent agent or recruiter, if they haven't previously worked in UX, they're probably not going to get that anyway. No offense to them. And they're going to want to skip it and just get to some of the meaty things. So I think there's a way to say a little bit about research and then have an accordion that opens and closes and say, read more about my process or read more about my research. And that way someone like me goes, oh yeah, I want to know. I don't want to choose to interview you until I see that you really know what you're doing. Whereas an HR person, excuse me, is often looking for different things. Yeah, I said, do you even UX bro to somebody and they got angry about it. And I think they got mad at me because they thought bro meant I was only going to say this to men and they thought it was sexist. And I've been saying it to women, but be careful. Someone might think you're sexist. Hi, Aftab. How have you been? What's going on in your world? Okay, so how do you document it for the portfolio? Give that a try. I do one free portfolio review for everybody. You get one for free. If you want a second one, I do charge 50 American dollars. Go to deltacx.com/links and you can sign up for your free portfolio review. You must watch episode 54 first and fix your mistakes. Then I will be happy to look at your portfolio. If I see common mistakes that episode 54 talks about, I will feel like you wasted my time. Yeah, consider your different audiences, HR and UX people. HR generally wants some descriptions and pretty pictures. A UX person who's a true UX person usually wants to see, does this person know what they're doing? Can I put them on a project alone and have them run with it? Or is this person faking it and not yet making it? All right. Now we've got a question that came in. We're down to the last two. We're going to run a little bit late. Okay, Dennis, thanks for coming by. Be well. If you're in America, happy turkeys. Let's see. So here we go. Hi, Debbie. Oh, this is Denise. How should a roadmap best fit UX? Okay, Denise, are you still here is my first question, because I might have some follow-up questions for you. Is Denise still here? And Denise, how are you doing? I think you're in Germany, and Germany's numbers are ugly. I hope you are safe and healthy. So it depends on whose roadmap this is. So from what I remember, you answered engineering at your job. So are you talking about more of an engineering roadmap for sprint or release planning? Are you talking about a product roadmap? Are you talking about a UX roadmap? There actually are UX roadmaps. So Denise, are you still here? Has anyone seen Denise? If Denise isn't here, I'm just going to have to give short answers to a couple of different possibilities here. I should have asked her when she asked it, but I was juggling the questions, and I'm so afraid of my stream dying. So how does a roadmap best fit UX? So typically when you are road mapping UX, you have to stay more high level. So that to me and to Nielsen Norman Group, if you want to check their article and their recent video on UX roadmaps, there's a difference between UX road mapping and UX project planning. UX project planning says, next week I'm going to do 30 hours of research, and here's how my week is going to lay out. And the week after that, here's what I'm doing. That's a project plan. That's technically not a roadmap. A UX roadmap, and again, you can totally Google this and read NN Group's article on this, but the way that they present UX roadmaps is it's more of a high-level look at UX initiatives or UX goals for particular periods of time. Sometimes those time periods could be relative, like soon, later, far away. Sometimes they might be more specific in time, but typically a roadmap for a UX roadmap is taking a look at a more high-level look at what kinds of things are we going to be working on. Now, what about a product roadmap? Product roadmap is similar. We're taking a look at what kinds of initiatives and goals and are we going to be working on, or what epics are we doing at what time. But UX has to know about this stuff ahead of time, because very often, not always, but very often when product does their road mapping, they're thinking about when engineering needs to start engineering. They're not always thinking about when UX needs to start UXing. So you want to make sure that if you're talking about a product roadmap, that you are collaborating with your product manager, product owner, project manager, whoever's responsible for that. It seems to be different at different companies. And you want to make sure that you are collaborating with that person so that the project starts when UX starts, and then engineering joins in later, so that we are multiple, if this is agile or fake agile, we are multiple sprints ahead of them. So because again, a common mistake is that the product roadmap or the project planning starts when engineering starts. So I would say also hypothetically, in a dream world, you would want to be a collaborator on that product roadmap, since sometimes the product team is a little bit more of the shepherd of business goals and a little bit less of a shepherd of customer goals and needs. They're focused more on the business sometimes. We are usually focused more on customer and user needs. So that creates a good partnership and a good balance. So as the product person might be road mapping, maybe from the perspective of what the business wants to do. Hey, the business wants to build more chatbots. Well, hold on. What does the customer want? We're supposed to deliver value to the customer, right? Did we do the right exploratory or generative research that tell us what do users need hypothetically around this chatbot? Because if we just say, hey, let's build a chatbot for this reason, that reason, that's being feature-oriented. You can look back in the playlist for the feature-oriented versus task-oriented show. Oh, Wilson's, thank you, Wilson. I can't wait for the things you say, standardizing UX education for the future. They don't teach this in school. Yeah, I'm hoping that in Q1 I'm going to release my educational model, and I'm hoping to disrupt education. And I don't know, I think I have a good shot at it. So anyway, Denise, that's a medium-sized version about that. Hey, Shrivas, you're here. I'm just running a little bit late. I'm going to be ending soon. We have one more question. Denise, I hope that helps. If you need more, you can always write to me. I think we're connected on LinkedIn. If you're in a Slack channel, you can write to me on Slack. I always want to try to help you out. So good luck. And I think we have our last question from Alpha. and then we're going to have to call it. And everybody, please note that there won't be any streams for the next week and a half. I'm taking a bit of a vacation. I will be back on December 3rd with a reaction stream, and then we'll go back to a little bit more of a regular schedule. So Alpha had asked, at what stage do you suggest to move the insights to the backlog stories after we uncovered opportunities in the optimized task flow? Ooh, yeah, I think so. Now, Larry and I are writing a book about this, so I promise when the book comes out, it will be much clearer on this and hopefully say things in a better way than I'm about to, because we do cover this in the book. But I'm trying to remember Larry's approach on that. Thank you, Shrivas. Enjoy your move. Stay safe, please. So yes, typically after we've got our optimized task flow, now we're taking a look at what can we improve for our target user or customer. And again, it might be a fix or incremental, but if you're doing task analysis right, hopefully it's a little bit more disruptive and a little bit more may or may not be innovative, but hopefully fresh and not just a copy of the competitor or a little bit of an improvement. People want fresh and they want better. So after that, usually you've got your insights, you've got your opportunities, you've got your, I'm also suggesting writing down some risks and also considering any policies or regulations that might play into this. At that point, you want to get together with your good buddies over in product and engineering and form that triumvirate and start working with them and say, hey, look, here is our list of pain points that we found. Here is the way we would optimize this task. This is how based on the research we did, this is how it would be better for the user to approach this task. We were able to cut out some steps. We were able to cut out some places where they were confused and had made some workarounds. We were able to cut out some things that were blocking them. And Alpha says, I'm trying to marry what I've learned from you and Larry with my current agile project. Yeah, thank you for that. I hope you've been watching all the videos, maybe even the new knowledge design video over in the micro lessons playlist. I hope you've seen that. That's a good one too. So yes, this is the point after you've got that task optimization. At this point, you typically would work with product and engineering, just one person from each team, product manager, engineering lead, and you would work on prioritizing because you each have different perspectives on prioritizing, and we can't just come in and say, yes, I've declared the priority. Everyone follow me. And we wouldn't want product to do that either. So we all have to take a look at the priorities. Hey, product, you're thinking a little bit more about business goals. What do you think are the priorities here? Hey, engineering, you're thinking about feasibility and having the resources and tech to make these things potentially happen, even though you don't know what they're going to look like. They haven't been designed yet, but you can start to imagine it, especially if you have a more senior lead or architect. They can start to go, oh yeah, we're going to need some stuff. Hey, UX, you're going to have to design this. You're thinking about the customer's needs. How do you prioritize these things? And that way you can all work together on those priorities. Now that these things have been prioritized, they seem like good things to get into the backlog because the backlog expects prioritized user stories. So somebody would be writing these stories. Again, I do suggest a collaboration at least between product and UX. If engineering wants to stay out of it, they can. But I'm often a little bit wiggly when product writes stories without working with UX. The stories sometimes end up missing the user value. Yeah. And Wilson says, yes, priorities are key. Make it less of a debate on what we're working on. Yeah. So Alpha, is that helping? Am I going in the right direction with your question? I know we're delayed about 30 seconds, but let's see. What about a micro lesson about prioritization, how you do it or how Larry suggested you do it? Yeah, that's in our book. And we've been using the micro lessons to preview some of the things we're writing in the book to see where we need to change them because of the questions we get from all of you. I know Larry would like to do these things, so I'm going to find a piece of scrap paper at my desk and I'm going to write down micro lesson on prioritization. I'm sure Larry would be happy to do that. And and because he has a matrix that he uses, he has a whole thing that he does. Peace to you. Micro lesson on prioritization. That will also let us test drive some of the things that are in the book and see where the book is doing a good job of explaining things and where the book needs a little bit more love. There you go. Everyone says I can't wait for the book. Guys, we are not moving along with this book very well. We keep rewriting it. But I think we're finally going to get somewhere on and off for 2 years now, more off than on. You know, he and I can be so busy, usually separately, sometimes together. So I apologize that this is the book that never gets here, along with my research SaaS tool that is hopefully coming next year. But hopefully next year is the year. All right, so I'm going to have to go, but just a reminder, we'll be back on December 3rd for Reaction Stream. December 6th will be our next Think Out Loud stream. If you haven't discovered those yet, please go to the YouTube playlist and check out the Think Out Loud playlist over on YouTube. I am doing live UX work for a sample realistic project, and I'm thinking out loud as I go so that you can see how I approach some of my information architecture and interaction design and prototyping work. Good night, Wilson. So follow this link, deltacx.com/link, and that'll tell you everything you need to know related to the stream. If it probably will answer most of your questions, but I will have to see everybody in a week and a half. Again, if you are on the Slack channel, I will still be active where I've got cell phone service. So if you have any question or problem, do private message me. Don't say Deb's on vacation, I shouldn't write to her. Yes, I want to hear from you, and if I'm a little busy, I'll just have to get back to you later, but at least ask. At least put it out there. I'm here for you. So, everybody, I had 2 people within 15 minutes of each other today tell me they had COVID. Please, 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 please be safe. Whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated for whatever reasons, please, 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 mask, distancing. I don't think we're ready for concerts. I guess we're not ready for spa visits. I guess we're not ready for places where lots of people go in and out, and things can't necessarily be kept clean. So hand sanitizer, masks, I can't say it enough. I want everybody to try to be healthy and safe. Thank you and good night, everybody. Thanks for a great session, and I will play us out of here, and I'll see everybody soon. Be well. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are